All right, guys. Universal Language Podcast is the 14th episode. I got an old friend. I know him as JJ. He also goes by John Sly. What's up, man? Welcome to the podcast.
Nothing much, man. Just hanging out, enjoying the day.
Good to see you.
Yeah, likewise. How you doing?
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah, is it like in the 60s there right now, all sunny and shit?
Yesterday it was. Today it's going to be in the 40s and partly rainy.
Sounds similar to here. Definitely. Even though this podcast won't be out for like 2 months, but whatever. You know, editing's a bitch when you got like hour and a half long podcasts. You're like, oh, shit.
Oh, yeah. Editing's a bitch as it is, man.
Right. But, yeah, like I said, we met each other back in high school. It was the punk rock crew. You were a little more on the hardcore side. But let's go further back than that, man. What's some of your first music memories? When did you fall in love with a band or music in general?
Remember? I remember first falling in love with music. I was about 3. It was 1987. My dad had given me and my brother each a cassette. He gave my brother Bon Jovi's "Slippery When Wet," and then he gave me Freedom Rock. Freedom Rock Disc 3. So I was
Bon Jovi too?
No, Freedom Rock was a collection of 1960s psychedelic rock songs.
Classic rock 60s stuff.
Which is ironic because my dad is a heavy metalist, and I think that's why he gave it to me because, he was like, I ain't a heavy metalist. Here you go.
Something older, maybe a little more child appropriate. Yeah, no, not really.
No, I was still 3. And like I remember the first song on that I really liked was "Creams in the Right Room with Black Curtains," nice. White Room. Yeah. And then there was a song by I think they were a Canadian band, but the song's name was in the year 2525, and it's this long psychedelic song that's talking about like what is the
I know you're talking about. That's in that's in that movie Gentlemen Broncos. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't.
Oh my god, you gotta see that, bro. That movie, it's probably the same guy who made Napoleon Dynamite, but really, that song's in the intro. It's like in the year 25. That's what you're talking about, right? Yeah, it's like
that song.
I don't know who the band did either, but that's like
imagine me being 3 years old trying to understand the world, and that's one of the first songs that I get introduced to.
And it goes back. It's like time travel in the song, and it keeps going.
Goes forward. It's like every in the year 20,
century or
it was a good song. So I had this real introduction to this hippie idea when I was developing who I was, but at that same time Bon Jovi came into play because my brother had Bon Jovi, and Bon Jovi was a little more rockin', and so my other favorite song was "You Could Love a Bad Name" at that same time. Shot through the heart, you're too late. Yeah,
nice.
Yeah. So and around like 6, I was singing some Guns N' Roses because they were my favorite band at that time. Nice. And I really loved singing. And my dad turned to me and he was like, I don't want to speak bad about him, but he said, "Yo, you should just give up on your dream now. You'll never make it." We were in the car that day. And
what?
Yeah. We were in the car. I was 6. Here's this guy who introduced me to all this music, Like, right. I remember, just being a small little kid, walking around with just headphones on all day, just listening to anything and everything. AC/DC, Iron Maiden, Scorpion, Black Sabbath, and the Freedom Rock thing.
Freedom Rock.
Yeah, it really crushed me. It really did.
That sucks, man.
Yeah, and I actually kind of quit listening to music for a while after that. I couldn't enjoy music the same.
Damn, man.
Uh,
That's brutal.
yeah, it really hurt me.
So what the
You know,
hell got you out of it?
well, well, actually, Dangerous Minds soundtrack. Um,
Oh fuck yeah.
yeah,
Me too.
Coolio. I was 12 years old, man. Dangerous Minds came out.
No, that was
And
94. You were that
yeah,
was 94. How old are
but
you then?
yeah,
10?
well, well, I didn't get the soundtrack. I bought it myself. I saved up enough money to buy it.
Got it
I
in
was like,
95?
it was 11. I was 11, going into the sixth grade, if I remember correctly.
Dude.
Um, and so I bought that, and then that introduced me into rap music. Like there was a song, Big Mike having things. Like at 11 years old, I
Well,
knew that
Gangsta's
that song.
Paradise, of course. Everyone loved Gangsta's Paradise.
Yeah, yeah, that's
But
what
you
made
were
me get the soundtrack. You know,
right.
Coolio right there.
And
But
then you started getting to the other stuff that's kind of wasn't as popular.
yeah, and
It's played
that
throughout the movie slightly, isn't it? Some of that stuff.
so yeah, some of it, but Big Mike's not really in there. He's only in there for a split second.
Yeah.
Uh,
Big Mike.
but that made me kind of open up into the social. It further reunited my social justice passion, if you will.
Well,
It,
and in middle school, I've said this before. It's almost where we grew up. It was easy to get into hip hop because a lot of people were, especially at that. I mean, I don't know about South Beloit, but Beloit, fuck yeah, man, it was like huge in the
yeah,
culture.
but you know, Beloit's gangster as fuck, man. You know.
Especially now, but yeah. But yeah, like mid '90s when gangster rap was blowing up or rap in general,
Yeah,
places like Beloit or South Beloit were like really into it. Like at least half the school was like really into it.
I don't think people understand, you know, even though that we're white in this social context, that Beloit is the most dangerous city, the worst city to live in Wisconsin.
Is it?
Right? Yes, it's
I can
considered
believe
the
that.
worst. It's
What about Racine?
it's worse than Racine. It's the fourth most dangerous city in Wisconsin now. It used to be number one when we were growing up, and when we contact and realize that we're right down the street from Rockford,
Yeah.
Rockford's the 11th worst city in the nation to live in.
Right.
So
This is
it's
just
the
like
most
our
violent.
neighbors. Yeah. A lot of people come from
Yeah,
Rockford.
yeah. You know, Beloit's got a really high poverty rate, really high drug rate. You know, this is something that I study in school because, you know, I have to do all these projects about social development and stuff. And I'm like, well, let's just do my community. And I start doing all this research into my community. And it's just like, yeah, I already knew all this, but
Right. Well, yeah.
I lived it.
Well,
I
isn't
was like,
like South Beloit almost like a poorer version, but it's kind of more a country version or something.
South
It's a
Beloit
different
is
state, but
right. It's right next to each other. It's the country part of Beloit.
yeah, it's almost like Beloit used to be both, and then like Illinois and Wisconsin divided them or something. I don't know the history
that's always
exactly.
been that's always been how I looked at it, you know, because like they're built up right next to each other. Like the lines of the city where the property divides, you know,
Oh, it's
it
right on
goes through
that. What's that road?
Sherland.
Sherland, and then yeah,
Sherland.
even over by like Flying J Road, whatever that is. That main that cuts it
Yeah,
in half, right?
Manchester Road. Like some of the
Yep.
property lines, it goes through people's yards.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I could see that.
Yeah,
But then it's
yeah,
like, and then South Beloit isn't even that big. You're like in Roscoe or whatever the next one is, like pretty quickly, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so
Well,
you're in middle school, South Beloit style. You're like,
yep.
yo, I like this gangster rap. Do I got any homies who like it? And they're like, no, I like ICP or
Oh no, actually, I didn't have a lot of friends. I was the weird kid. I was artistic. I would hide underneath my desk and I would read books and I would watercolor paint. I would use my own saliva and or I would use a wet napkin that I went to the bathroom and grabbed to, you know, paint. And I would hide under there because my homework was done. I was like, why the fuck do I need to pay attention? And like 5 minutes, the teacher's going to ask who could talk about this. I'm going to go up there and give a lecture. So it's like, let's just hide and paint. So kids thought I was unusual and weird.
Nice. Not nice.
Yeah. But at the same time, like when it came time to recess time and they were like, let's do this football thing, I'm like, let me up in this, I'm going to dominate this field, let me get that run.
Okay.
And
so you're like, Big Mike's playing in your head. You're like, yeah.
Yeah. Having Things was a song, man. Anyone wants to check it out.
So did you go to through a similar what do you want to call it, like transition from like hip hop to punk rock eventually? Because that's it was a huge thing for me, and I like totally got out of hip hop when I did it.
I never really fully immersed myself into hip hop to that extent. I always that same time, my dad he gave me the same time I bought that Gangsta Paradise Dangerous Minds soundtrack. He gave me the Grammy nomination hits for 1997, 1998. So at that same time, I'm getting into gangster rap. All of a sudden, I'm introduced to pop music. And my dad gave me that because Columbia Music House sent him the CD, and he didn't like it. So I get introduced to some pop music. So I get introduced to like Mariah Carey, Alanis Morissette, Blues Travelers.
That was
Hootie and the Blowfish at that time.
So wait, you weren't listening? You didn't hear these things on the radio? You weren't listening to the radio much?
No. You got to remember, man. Like my dad, like
only played heavy metal.
Oh yeah. And then when he did that, I kind of got out of music. I quit listening to any music that was being played, even when he was on the radio at that moment in time. Like, Dangerous Minds reawoke me, and it hit me at the same time he introduced me to this pop music. And that Grammy nomination, it was top 40 music, but it was like all the different genres that were big during that time.
Right.
And then
the Grammy gives you everything with all the categories and what have you.
Yeah. And so that helped diversify my music outlook. Until like 8th grade, I don't know, something happened, and I wanted to go harder. Some kids were making fun of some of the opposing kids in the football and in the locker room because the away team had to share the locker room with the visiting team because there was a volleyball meet happening at the same time. So they couldn't use the other locker room because the girls were using it. And the guys from the other team were playing Korn. And my classmates started saying, this is some music that I would listen to, making fun of me for it. And I'm like, you know what? You're probably right. So I started to get into nu metal.
Yeah.
And
I listen to that stuff too, man.
And MTV started doing that. They started bringing back metal after midnights at that same time. So to learn nu metal, like the Static X and Dope.
System of a Down.
Yes.
Slipknot.
Yes. And occasionally they would play this video from Lars Fredrickson and the Bastards. It's a cover song of The Have and the Have-Nots.
Okay.
And I remember that intro of the guitar, and I remember the video, and I was like, these guys dress as I want to dress. They had the mohawks going on. They had the leather jackets. They had the spikes. It was all in black. They had this look that didn't look as drugged out as a lot of rockers did. I was like,
right. The grungers or the
and in the videos it was like more of a community based, like because Sum 41 started playing some videos at that time. Bleak 182 started playing some videos at that time, and their videos tend to have more of a they had more of a community aspect about them. It was quite odd.
Well, it's high energy and fun.
Yeah,
and you're
but
young.
they also had some serious overtones. I'm like the have and the have nots. It's pretty much saying, like just because I ain't you, fuck you, man. I'm me. Why the fuck you gotta put me down, man? Just because you got
Well,
something.
when I think that's with Rancid or anyone, yeah, Lars. I think any of their stuff, it had they always had that where it kind of had a sound that could be like appealing to the masses. Well, eventually,
This is true.
but the lyrics weren't necessarily Blink 182 lyrics, just chasing girls or whatever.
No, it
Even though
was.
Blink 182 had some serious songs, but you know what I'm saying in
Yeah, I know what
general.
you're saying.
And so like yeah, for sure. And same with like No Effects, or we used to listen to like Choking Victim and all that crazy and stuff.
Well,
And
no facts in the beginning. They were kind of Blink 182ish. It wasn't until Bush got elected they started really coming around more political
no,
stuff.
I mean no. Drunken Punk and Dropwick. I mean, they always had like it was more sarcasm, but they still had like Murder the Government that way before that. 2000 or 97, So Long, Thanks for All the Shoes. That's a
Okay, yeah,
great album. It's a great album. They
yep,
always had
yep.
like they just got like more and more. And I even seen I saw like Fat Mike. He's like, "Wow, I can make a difference," and it's just a promo video, just promoting the song. Yeah, I could. No, I like that song though. But even that song was like, it had a poppy sound or pop punk sound. We're referring to the Franco Un-American,
Yeah, Franco American had a very pop
but
punky
the lyrics
sound to
are direct and
nothing.
the
Yeah.
lyrics are direct and punk rock and anti-Bush and yeah,
Oh, completely. It was a greatly for the times. It was musically geared to market it to what they had to say to make their message mass appealed, and they did it
yeah.
well. They did it very well
Well,
at Franco American.
and that's I look back at a lot of those bands and I those are the kinds that I can still listen to. You know what I mean? Because like when you have the almost saturation of the Blink sound or whatever, even like Green Day did all variety stuff too, but I kind of like the stuff that has a little more depth or meaning behind it. And if it sounds a little pop punky, like it's still okay because it's got some depth to it. You know what I mean? As opposed to What's My Age Again or whatever the fuck. I mean, I get
Hey, I
nostalgia
took
from
it
all
down.
that. I get nostalgia, but what I can still really like, and you know what I mean? There's a difference between nostalgia hitting you and I remember, and something like, oh, I can still listen to this. Like the Rancid 2000 album when they came back and did the hardcore one. I fucking love that album. I love that better than most of all their really popular stuff. I mean, Outcome the Wolves is incredible album, but whatever.
Yeah,
To each their own. All right. So we were like in this, and then okay, so you kind of were getting into all this stuff in South Beloit High School, and
yeah.
then how'd you end up coming to Beloit Memorial, and you joined our little punk rock crew, and Olson
Well, so
got you.
about the so these kids are making fun of corn, so I'm immersing myself into this new metal because they kind of made fun of me, and I'm like, well, if they're making fun of it, and they've always made fun of me, and I think I'm pretty cool, then this music must be pretty cool.
Right.
So and I thought, it was kind of cool. Corn's first album, it was all right. Uh, any case, so
I got
has
into Follow the Leader, Life is Peachy. I like those ones.
I my parents started going through a divorce and splitting when I was a freshman in high school, and like my family was my social understanding. Like I had some friends, but like despite my family's problems, it was my safe haven. Um, Even though it wasn't always the best environment, and so I didn't have the social skills because I didn't have good relationships at school, I guess.
Right.
But I was just young, I didn't understand what given enough time, but that's another story. Any case, so the movie SLC Punk I came across, and it wasn't so much like this is what punk is because the movie is kind of anti-punk lifestyle to an extent,
Mm,
based upon the ending. Like
right.
when Steve-O leaves you, he's leaving you with saying, I mean, it was fun while it lasted, but what do you do when there's nothing left? You know,
Right.
maybe we're all just a bunch of posers. But the music, the music, that song, I beg your pardon, I never promised you a rose garden. It's a cover again, but you know, he- hearing that song, something about it. Something about the intro, sex and violence, like sex and violence,
Yeah.
sex and violence, sex and violence. You know, um, that I would watch the movie just to listen to the soundtrack sometimes.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you're
Um,
taking videography notes, cliff notes, directorial.
I actually ended up talking to the director, James, when he was doing SOC Punk 2. I exchanged messages with him over a couple months. You know, not
Nice.
about not more about the movie, just more about like his work, because he's done a lot of other good cinematic work. He's worked with a lot of uh, influential foreign filmmakers, like the Dogma 95 crew, which is a bunch of individuals who show up with just a camera and a script, and they don't bring any props. They only make the movie with what they have on that location. So it's a very minimalist style of shooting.
That's dope.
Um, yeah,
Low budget.
yeah, very much so. So he's been in Italy. He's done France, Germany with Dutch. But even though he's an American-based artist out of Utah, but that's another story. So,
Let's get
but
back on
this movie,
track here, buddy.
yeah, this movie, it the soundtrack, it had a huge influence, and eventually, I was like, my parents split, and I didn't want to go back to South Beloit because I didn't really feel like I had any strong friends. And like my one friend Matt, um, he went to Beloit, so I went to Beloit to go hang out with him. But he was dating this one girl, and I really liked her friend, and it just didn't work out for me and a friend because I was weird as fuck. I dressed in all black. I wrote poetry. I listened to punk rock. Um, sometimes I would paint my face and wear makeup. Like King Diamond, and not
Black
ICP.
lipstick.
Yeah, I would, not ICP, but I was like embracing the gothicness of the time. I was,
Goth
you know,
glam.
yeah, I was listening. I started, from that SLC soundtrack, I got into goth music. And I messed around with 80s goth music and uh, industrial and new wave for a while there, and death metal. And we started hanging out. I went to Beloit, um, and like I don't know, like I needed to grow. And me and Matt were still friends, but I quit hanging out so much with them, and I started hanging out with Nick and Olson. And you know,
Oh, that's right.
X and Olson,
X.
X and Olson, X looked like Wayne Static, and Olson's Olson. They were like the hardcore of the crew. And well, I guess maybe I wanted acceptance. Maybe I was trying to fill some void inside of myself.
Right.
But I was like, fuck it, let's destroy ourselves. Even though I understood that destroying ourselves, wasn't the end game, but it was kind of fun for a while there
Yeah. Well,
until
then
you
and then that expanded into our whole
uh
little crew, and you and Olson were kind of in and out of
the
our
crew.
little
Yeah, me and
punk
Olson,
crew or whatever it was, pop
me
punk
and Olson
crew.
did our own thing. Like I got involved with cocaine and shit, and I actually dropped out of high school 3 weeks before early graduation. I didn't feel like I was even part of the punk crew. I didn't feel like I was part of any crew.
Mm,
Um, I didn't even know if I was part of myself.
right. Yeah, we were young and
Um,
dumb and partied hard.
yeah,
Did a lot of dumb shit.
yeah, and
We did crack ass.
yeah, we did do crack ass.
Because
And
we
shortly
love
after,
jackass. And what?
Before Crack Jackass, it was CKY, man, and I was Johnny Crack. You were, it was just went hand in hand. But after that, Crack Ass phase, I started to get more back into, I don't know, I got further.
Started playing with bands eventually, right? Meeting people.
No, this was years down the line. Like I had this drug addiction, drug abuse problem for like a solid year where I had a gram and a half of cocaine. That it was all free because I was a driver and clientele would find me, and those clientele would find me, and then they'd come over to my guy's house, and my guy would be all who I was going to hang out with anyways because he was my friend, but they'd come over and my guy and they'd be like, "Let me get a gram," and my guy was like, "Sure, you don't want an 8 ball," and he'd break out a line, so they break out a line, and next thing like he would give me free coke because that mean that they would give me free coke, so it meant they would buy more. So
And this guy ended up in Vegas.
I didn't even like coke. Like it was just I like pot.
Yeah.
I like pot.
Right.
Coke.
Legal now.
Coke kind of my heart race, and I can't go to sleep. And
It's horrible. It's a nasty drug.
I
man.
can't breathe.
It's disgusting.
Yeah, but
Okay, so you lived a hardcore lifestyle for a while.
Fuck yeah, dude. And then I ended up homeless
go
for a
back
while.
But in the back of your mind, you're like maybe thinking about school, maybe thinking about
I
filming,
tried going back
maybe.
to school. I tried going back to school, but my guy, he went to jail. So I had to drop out of school again to watch the business while he was in jail, and that led to me dropping out of school again. But long story short, I had this epiphany one day that I don't want to be doing this. Like we're selling crack. Like this woman just came and she just left her kid with me. Like
that's horrible, man.
Yeah, like because I wouldn't fuck her for her because she wanted some crack and I wanted the money, and I didn't know that she left her kid downstairs. And yeah, because she left with the crackhead to go get some crack with some guy who will fuck her who'll give her some crack for a pussy. Like the kid was like 12, like I just turned 19, and this kid's like 15.
We're going south here. We're going south here.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so you dropped out in 2002, right?
Twice in 2002, and then again in 2003. But I had this teacher who knew me since I was a freshman in high school, and he taught me in like 2 or 3 classes, and he convinced me and the school that to put me on a test-only schedule. So I didn't have to do any homework. I didn't have to show up to class. All I had to do
pass the test,
and I could do the test whenever I wanted.
Yeah, and that's what you basically do with when you get a GED outside of high school.
Basically,
right?
I don't know. I never took it.
It's pretty much that's the same. Sounds like a similar program actually. You do it in like 3 to 6 months. Olsen did it, I think, or somebody did it.
I did it in like 6 weeks. I would come in and they'd give me some tests, and I'd take tests for like 3 or 4 hours. Like take your economic test, take your Spanish test, take your math test, take your Constitution test,
right.
And then like I graduated, and I always wanted to go to college after I graduated, and my mom told me if I could have a year clean that she would pay for me to go to community college. And I was like, shit, I can do a year clean, no problem. So I did a year clean. I did that year clean while battling homelessness too.
Right. The blue van.
No, blue van came later on. At this time, I was 19 years old. My mom had just moved in with her new boyfriend, and she got rid of our house.
Oh,
and
I think I remember this.
I was living in a storage shed right next to Viking Lanes. It was wintertime. And I got a job working at the factory next door to the storage shed, McClary's. And then I got an apartment working for our old manager, Don Walmer. I ended up renting one of her homes. uh, like December of 2003. We're 19 years old,
Yeah.
and I get a year clean, and my mom tells me, "We just bought a new TV. We're not gonna. We can't afford you to go to school." I was like, "But my promise."
The fuck?
Yeah.
All right, all right.
But
Well, let's fast
anything.
forward a little. All right.
The
Well,
recession hits. So the recession hits. Okay. It's
yeah.
2000. It's 2000 and
7, 8,
the
2007 or 8. Well, we
okay.
reconnected in 2007.
Okay, let's fast forward to there. Okay.
And in the
So
same time, you were just getting back into school, and you
yes,
were wanting to film a
Panic.
lot, not only
I had
because of school, but because of is what you're getting into.
okay. Um here's 2007, man. Okay. Um, I came up with this concept in 2005 to start this company. It was going to be a skateboard and media company.
That's right.
One night I was it was winter time and I was watching Carlito's Way, The Rise of Power, not the good one, but the one with shot with P Diddy in it, man. The shitty one.
The
And I was
sequel.
yeah, but it's not an official sequel. I was like, dude, I could write a better movie than this. So I that night I wrote a 7-page short story. Um, and I
Thank you,
um,
Carlitos Way.
and then I compounded it, to try to make it into a feature length film. I
Right,
spent
with a
like 2 or 3.
script and screenplay.
Yeah, I spent like 3 years writing this, man. Like every day I was in my head just trying to write it. And I also started getting into photography at that time. This artistic side of myself. I wanted to get in touch with that side because, like my dad, when I was 10, I started to get into art, as I was saying, but I stopped that because my dad he took because I was doing pencil shaving art at that time, where I would take pencil shavings and I would take glue and I would like see what I could do. I was just experimenting. I was 10 years old, but I was trying to develop art. And he took it and he dumped it all out and threw it away and said, "This is garbage. You're just making a mess." And so I quit being an artist for a while. Um, and um, so about 2005, I get in touch with this. I start painting. I start playing the guitar again. I start playing the bass again,
Yeah,
and
oh, I remember this.
and uh, and I'm writing this movie, and I'm getting into photography. And you're all like, "Hey, man, like,
I got acoustic guitar in 2007. Well, no, 2006 actually, but I was started to play live in 2007. And I was like,
and
"Yo,
you,
come film me." And
yeah, you're like,
I think we both had cameras. You had a better one.
come take photographs of me, like,
Yeah.
hey, and I was like, okay, I can help you out. I can come do that. And you're like, drive me, man. Like, I need a driver. And I'm like, dude, I can't. I'm trying to get ready to get back into school. I'm getting ready for this promotion at work. I'm trying to write the script, And you were like, hey, man, like, what if we go to North Carolina? Oh, like, you bastard.
And this was like a MySpace time. I had all this MySpace stuff going on, so I was using all your photos and some videos for that. And then
Well,
you
I
actually
don't think.
you did the album covers for my first two really crappy albums, which are cease to exist, or unavailable. But I have pictures of them. They'll pop up now. Bing.
I did. Those photos were taken at your direction. You were like, "This is how I want you to do it. Take it like this. Now do a couple of your own." I got a couple of those still. In
And
my
you do
memories,
live
but
photo shoot sort of things. We would like
yeah,
you'd film me
you would,
just like playing out in the woods, like doing a song, and
yeah. You would have me do that, and then you were like, "Hey, come to my show and be my camera guy too." And so, like, your video, you having me come to the show really helped me develop how to move a camera and stuff. You
so this is
having
before
me.
you went to school, right? Right before, kind of.
Yeah, well, I had gone to school. I had managed to get some money to pay for a couple semesters, and I took a film appreciation class. and
Hmm.
I saw that the school had a film production class. So it was before I got into film production because I had like a year and a half gap from when I first went to college and noticed they had the film productions class, and then when I was able to get back to college because
I
you know the
gotcha.
recession hit. I ended up going homeless again, and and I ended up living at a skate park.
Yeah.
But I digress.
So I gave you some of your first photography and video experiences,
You were
and then
the
you
one of
like
the
went to school.
you were one of the major colleges, major driving forces, especially in the musical department. Like I learned how to shoot guitars and stuff because you would be like, "Hey, come here, do this for me," and I'd be like,
Yeah,
"Okay." And
we were
then I
both
would.
broke as shit, and just doing whatever we could to try to like pass time in a creative way, I
Yeah.
guess.
And so like I finished the script. We go to North Carolina. Uh, I come back. You move. You go off. You start doing some more tours, and you do your own thing. And I'm chilling out here, skateboarding, trying to figure out how to get back to college. And um, it's um, it's at the very end of that time. I had actually gotten back into college. It's 2009 at this point. The recession hit. I had lost my job at Kettle Foods, and so it's 2009, and I get back to college, and I have this choice: uh, um, either look for a new job or go live underneath this guy's table and go to school. So I did that, and I um, lived. He lives a punk rock lifestyle. Jeremy is hardcore to the fucking max, man. So it wasn't very restful night's sleep. Um, a couple times it was easier to find places to sleep in the school, like sleeping in the boiler room on the cement, than going back and getting woken up at like 2 in the morning because the party came back home.
You get away with that sleeping at school?
Yeah, for a while until I got caught one day. I got caught because I heard the security guard come into the area that I was at, and I didn't know what time it was because my phone died, and I didn't know it was a security guard. I thought it was like time for class or something. I thought it was the students coming in,
Mm.
but it turned out it was like 4 o'clock in the morning, and so like he heard me sneaking back to where I was at, and I got kicked out, and I had to go sleep at a bus stop in the middle of winter time.
Damn,
But
dude.
it was a good time.
But you're doing your
So
video
any
stuff
case,
here.
yeah, I'm doing the video stuff, and I'm making friends, and at least I think I'm making friends. I don't know. The video that I was trying to make, because of the life that I lived, the script that I wrote, it was a little more real, than what a lot of my classmates had experienced in life. So, they were young and they didn't want to necessarily have a hand in its creation. I don't think they understood what it was about fully because they
Well, right, because you start going to college when you're like 25, right? Most people are 18, 19, 20.
yeah, but these are people who are still in their 20s, but even then I lived a fucking lifestyle, man. Like yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was homeless multiple times. I had already overcame what most people considered a heavy drug addiction.
Right.
Um,
Kind of rough upbringing, parents getting divorced, your dad, man, he seemed like a dick. Sorry.
yeah, it is what it is, man. So but trying to make that film, it was fucking great. Like I got in trouble at the school because I sent out over 900 emails. They said I was phishing and trying to get actresses. And so they took away my use of the school's computer um, email system. So for a full year. So a year later, I get online because I had to do this web development class that requires you to get online, and I had to petition the school for that to use it again. I had like 48 girls who were like, "Yeah, I had to audition for this," but none of them would return my emails because it was like a year later. They totally forgot about it. And the fucked up thing about this was I included my phone number also in that email in case anybody wanted to reach out to me personally. And the next day after I sent that email out, my phone number got lost in the system. Like my phone number couldn't receive calls. They couldn't retrieve it. They couldn't add my phone number to a new phone. My phone number got basically frozen in the system.
That's got to be something they did, man. Like they restricted it.
No. It's crazy. Odd as fuck. Yeah, it was really odd. So I had to get a whole new phone number assigned.
Wait, but you're trying to make this movie.
Yeah.
For the sake and the cause of the movie, but like, are you doing actual video projects for school yet, or this is just you're getting into that a little?
This hadn't. The video projects that we had were like beginning entry, like do a lighting project, a 3-point lighting scenario, or here's a script, shoot the script. You get to determine what's going on, but here's the words, stuff like that. But at that time, I was but in any case, but during this time, I had managed to get enough money to buy a van, and I moved into a van. And one day I was back in South Beloit. This was after my first semester back from the very basic intro class. And I took the very basic class, and I got this van, and I was at my mom's house in South Beloit. And I'm skateboarding down the road one day from my mom's house to the skate park because I didn't want to drive my van because it got 8 miles to the gallon, and gas was like $3 a gallon at that time. Like fuck that, I'll just skateboard. Mm-hmm. And so I got Tupac blasted into my ear, man. Like, and I remember this, man. Like, this kid named Corey Brown. I called him Superman. I hadn't seen him in a couple years. He's like a good 8 years younger than me, 7 years younger than me. I first met him at the art fair in South Beloit. And he ran into me wearing a Superman shirt and cape. He was like 12 years old, and I was 19. And I was like, whoa, slow down there. And, I ran into him like 2 years later, or a year later, because he was skating by my house. And he was like, hey, man, you're that dude. And I'm like, you're Superman. And then him and his brother would come over while I would play the guitar because I was getting back in the guitar. And they would jump on my neighbor's trampoline. So they listened to me jam out while jumping on the trampoline. And I'm skateboarding, dude, and I got Tupac loud as fucking could be, man. Fucking, and he goes, JJ! And he's probably like 800 feet away from me. Like, he's a good distance from me, man. Like, there's no reason that I should have heard him over Tupac. There's no reason I should have heard him over my skateboard. There's no reason I should have heard him fucking period, man. And all I hear was boom, and I take my headphones off, and I look up, man. I'm like, and here's this kid, man. And he's coming at me. And he's like, get over here, get over here. And so I come up to him, and he was like, hey, I'm starting a band. Like, I need a bass player. Like, here's my drummer, Tristan. I taught him how to play drums. I play the guitar. Like, let's smoke some pot.
Nice. And that's how most bands start.
So,
like, we got a place to do it, bro.
So we sitting there, and we're and he's all like, so we're gonna go to band practice. You want to come with? And I'm like, okay.
Like, yeah, I can do a little bass. Fuck it.
Yeah. So we come up, and he's all like, he's all like, hey man, get on the bass. I'm like, okay. I'm like, I don't know any of your songs. He's like, that's okay, you'll figure it out. So he's all like he did that thing where he's all like, you know how sometimes like bass players, like they can play they'll play along with the guitar player, they'll play they'll play either like an octave or they'll play the root, yeah,
simple.
So he was like do the simple part, you do the simple bass.
Yeah,
I
that's
was
punk
like,
rock.
okay,
That's what punk rock is most of the time. Yeah.
yeah. I was like, what type of music are we playing? He's like, we're doing grunge punk. I'm like, fuck, I can do that. So, so, so for like a summer, I played with him, and I played with Tristan, and
You guys didn't do any shows or?
no shows. I ended up actually leaving the band to go back to college because school, because I was living in a fucking van still, man, and I had gas. I didn't have gas.
Right.
So like I was trying to work too, and I really wanted to dedicate to the film thing. So I did that shit. But not before I recorded a couple of demos for the band. Like I would load the band's equipment into my band with their new bass player and the singer and the drummer, and I would take them to fucking school and I would set them up in the fucking booth and I'd be like, you guys are recording demos.
Can you hear these demos somewhere?
No, not anymore. All the demos, from my understanding, I gave them 12 copies of each of the demos. We made 2 demos. I gave them 12 copies. And they made more copies. And there was a house fire. At one point in time, everybody ended up living together.
Right. Like most bands do.
Well, it wasn't just the band. It was also the scene.
And the South Beloit 420 crew.
Yeah. So, like, everyone ended up living together, and there was this house fire. And all copies got destroyed.
Damn, man, why don't you upload it to MySpace or something?
At that time,
email it, man. You might have emailed it. You might have uploaded it to something, and somehow it's in the ether.
Well, I had them on this external hard drive, and
I just got into taking those apart.
That the school had given me. The school had given all the students these big ass external hard drives. And long story short, my external hard drive deleted itself.
That sucks. So, I just had a 3 terabyte crash, dude. Just a week ago. Yeah.
If you don't have that backed up someplace else.
I lost 2 episodes. I'm trying to recover them. I actually can. I did this thing. I could see them, but they're not playable yet. So.
Really?
But the 2 episodes, it's Sam Soul and Matt Pickert. So I'm like, at least it's 2 people I could probably do again. Easy enough. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to just like you. It's just like as opposed to random guests. I got one of the co-founders from Mofro on an interview.
What?
Daryl Hance, yeah.
Yeah.
He didn't want to talk about Mofro. He hasn't played with us.
He's pissed off.
He hasn't played with them since 2010. He's not pissed off. He just he doesn't want to get any recognition through that for some reason. I'm like, that's the biggest thing you've done, but I don't know. Because because he has 3 solo albums. He's recorded them all. Guess where? JJ, he's recorded all 3 solo albums at JJ Gray's home studio.
Yeah, that's why I said really, because I figured that. I thought they got in a big blowout. That's why he left. Oh.
No, he said when they were doing their thing for 12 years, he was with them. He always had songs, he was writing himself, almost waiting to get out of them. And he always brought the Swampy or Slide thing. And JJ Gray's slowly going to kind of the bigger band, bigger horn sound, soulful, as opposed to the swampy stuff they started out with. And he actually co-wrote a lot of songs on the first 2 albums. But yeah, he said he left in 2010. He said he made enough money from the really popular years to just he doesn't have a mortgage to pay, and he has all this great musical gear, instruments, whatever. So I think he's pretty comfortable. He's super laid back too. But he even told me after the fact, don't put Daryl Hance and Mofro, or don't even put it in the description. It's on the episode we talk about Mofro, but it's it's not very detailed. It's not. I'm a super fan. It's not shit I really wanted to know certain things. I was like, all right, whatever. We'll talk about your solo stuff.
Yeah,
it's all good. But anyway,
nice.
You should watch that. It's not gonna be out for a minute, but. All right,
I would definitely watch that.
let's get
Okay,
back into.
I'm recording these bands. I was recording this band. Did them a couple demos. Um, and then I started doing some projects for school. I started getting some recognitions, like that Rosecrans video.
Mm.
The version that you have isn't that's on YouTube. Isn't the original version?
Yeah, I think I've
That
seen
was
the original. Yeah,
the original version was a little more
Rose
graphic.
Rosecrans is for a drug rehab center, and he kind of did a commercial that shows the drug abuse and encouraging people to go there. In a sense, in an
Yeah,
extreme way, you could say.
I showed.
Let's get into that project a little.
Yeah, I showed. We had to do this PSA, and I contacted Rosecrans, and they were like, "Yeah, sure, you can shoot a commercial for us." And I was like, "Cool." And so, I wanted to show the reality of what drug addiction's like. It looks fun, it looks alluring, but you're gonna get fucked up by it at some point in time.
Right.
And I got a standing ovation in class. As far as I know, I am the only student in my time there that got a standing ovation for anything they showed. So, that video,
2-minute, and he used my music.
yeah, and I actually used your music in there. If I did not change your track at all I did was slow it down to make it sound like a heartbeat.
Well, yeah, and you didn't use any of the vocals, which is cool. Just gave it a cool background instrumental.
Yeah, to focus on what was going on.
Right.
People are like, wait,
No,
what
I
is
like
this
that.
shit?
Yeah.
Yeah. The original one didn't have that so much. The original one focused more on the partying, and then the aftermath. It didn't have the drugs look alluring.
Right. Oh, you're freezing. Froze, bro. Damn it, dude.
Drug addiction and how to overcome it. They weren't into shock value. They weren't into the reality of it.
Right.
So I understood that. So I took it down for a while, re-edited it, and then I uploaded it without tagging their name in it, so I could keep the video live. And I kept it private for a couple years to give myself a good distance between them.
So they were pretty upset with you in a sense. They're like, this is too hardcore.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we said we could do it, but Jesus Christ.
Yeah, they were pretty pissed at me.
They just wanted like someone sitting in front of the camera. I used to do drugs, but now I go to Rosecrans. Show no like short film or whatever the fuck. You see those movies, and then and then at the same time you did this other short film where you used my song "Back to Life," and it's almost like a short horror film. What's it called? Yeah,
it's called Campfire. I actually this is actually the final nail in the coffin of what stopped people from working with me at film production class. Because before that, my work's coming out, and they're seeing because I did a lot of isolated work because here's this homeless guy, who rides around on a skateboard, who just got caught sleeping in the school boiler room, who does sidewalk poetry, who's got in trouble for trying to cast a film with the school. I had this reputation,
right.
But then they started seeing my work, like your music video, man, like Pretty Baby. Like, okay, so anyways, so the Campfire, it's not the name of the film, but that's the name of the film. It's like Campfire Stories. I accidentally got too close to the fire and melted the not the camera itself, but like the housing unit that affects how much light comes in. So it's like the shutter.
Oh,
so you could. It's
expensive school camera.
No, the camera wasn't ruined, but the shutter got a little warped from the heat. Because I was used to using 35 millimeter cameras through most of my experience. I didn't shooting experience. Wasn't used to having the ability to function in zoom. So for me, get in was more important than zooming in. And so it warped this plastic housing unit. And then we reshot the reshot the murder scene because the original director, we did it in his house, and he didn't want us getting in his house a mess. And his sister, who was the original actress, didn't want to get covered in blood. And if we're doing a horror film, we got to try to bring in some horror to it. I didn't know how to, for what he wanted me to shoot. We weren't doing anything out for hitchhiking. It was, we're doing it like it's supposed to be brutal, but we're not using any of the blood to make it brutal. It was really odd. When Alfred Hitchcock does something brutal, he'll allude to it. He'll use a shadow. He'll use like the blood going down a drain or something like that.
Right.
No, he wanted me to shoot the girl, get in her head, smash into the window or into a mirror, but he didn't want any blood, and his sister didn't want blood. They didn't want to clean up the mess. So we reshot this film.
Wow.
We reshot this film with my guy Jeremy, who I ended up living under his kitchen table. The same guy. And he does special effects work. He was a part of this year-long haunted house down in Illinois. So he was all like, dude, we're just going to make a shitload of fake blood, dude. We'll get this looking. And nice. So, we had fake blood all over the place, and I got fake blood on the camera. So long story short, it ended up costing me $400 to get the fake blood cleaned from the camera and to replace the housing unit. But because that happened to the camera,
people didn't want you to work with it as much, sort of thing.
Because they thought I was a liability. Despite the fact that all my work coming out, they were praising, I was consistently putting out good work, and I was doing it mostly by myself. I had this partner named Scott Lorch, great guy. I haven't talked to him in years, but he sometimes did the camera work. But when it came time to the grunt of the labor, the editing, that was on me. When it came to a lot of the sound work, that was on me. But
right. I mean, I know you did pretty much all the Pretty Baby video.
Yeah. You were there for that.
You got the actors. You filmed it all. Was he the bigger guy or no?
Yeah, that's Scott. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool. So he was there assisting.
Yeah. He was the guy, he was basically my assistant on everything, but he was really the only guy for a while that I could do anything with me up until we shot this horror film, which again, it got praised in class. But it cost me the use of being able to use any more equipment.
Right. So then we're back to your old school camera, just kind of how you started.
Yeah, and even then I didn't even have that because I had a kid now, and my ex-wife, that's a long story. Any case, at the same time, my classmates, Travis League, was starting something called Plastic Apes Production, and they did this film called Raymond Did It. Won a few awards, used all the classmates and all of our classmates, except for me. That really hurt me. I asked him why, and he was like, "We thought you were too much of a liability after what happened shooting that." Despite the fact, despite the fact that my work was good.
Right.
They didn't deny that.
Okay. Well. Yeah, I feel what you're saying. They
so
couldn't deny your art and what you're putting out. But let's fast forward to. I don't know. We got so much time. Sorry, brother. But we got to.
Sorry, it's cool. Any case, so we started. Any case, that didn't matter. I ended up. I ended up working for a record company, doing video production.
This is after you got out of school, or right at the end?
I'm still in school. It was at the end of my career. It was at the end of my
film
associate. While I was working on my certificate as a mixed media production specialist. And he was all like, "Hey, I need a video guy." He came to my work. I was working at the Pizza Ranch as a manager, and I asked him, "What's Turkey Vulture Records?" He's like, "That's my record company." I'm like, "No fucking way." He was like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Well, I do video work. Just got a certificate in film and audio production." He was like, "Rock on, stop by." I'm like, "Where are you at?" He's like, "Look me up online." I'm like, "Okay." So I did, and I stopped by. Yeah. And we started talking. He's like, "This is what I need from you." I'm like, "Okay." He was like, "I need you to record the bands. I need you to make promotional videos. I need some music videos, documentaries, you know. So I started working with them a little bit. I did this band, Mobile Death Camp. It the lead singer for Mobile Death Camp was Beefcake from Guar. He's also a member of Green Jello, or Green Jello, Green Jelly. Yeah, he's like member number 257 or something like that.
I actually had a guy who was like 350 on here. He's in a reggae band now, but yeah, dirty reggae punks.
So I started. I did a documentary on these guys, and I was doing another one for a local band that is on the called Beyond Threshold, and they're like basically Turkey Vulture's house band. Like Eric Virgin, he's like Jason's partner in a sense.
Yeah.
And so like I started working on a video with them, and I got one installment done, and I had like 3 segments, so I was basically finished with the bulk of the storytelling. I just needed a couple B-roll, cutaway scenes put in, and the band had worked previously with this guy named Banky, and so I had asked Banky if he would like to add the B-roll, since he had a lot of the footage, and the band told me to contact him. And I was like, hey, Banky, I'm going to invite you in on this project here, man. Like, what's good? So he agreed to do that. But he got drunk one night, and he completely fucked up my other 2 half of the projects. Like he saved, like, so Final Cut's supposed to audio save. So, but somehow he managed to get rid of my original saves that I had over there. And he completely redid everything. So it fucked the entire thing up, dude. And I spent like 3 weeks organizing that. So like 3 weeks.
So he stole it almost?
Around 40 hours a week, editing 20 minutes of video. That's a lot of fucking time, man. That's more than needs to get done.
So he kind of stole it and put his own edit out?
Yeah, and he edited it out, and he totally fucked it up. So he took like some of my core functions of it, and he just fucked it up. It was not what I was trying to do.
Right.
And I was working with a couple other bands like Truth Burns Coley and Silent Truth and stuff like that, who were also working with them. I was recording them, but I had this ex-wife who was crazy. Let's not get
into that.
Well, it does play into this. So remember that band Dope that I mentioned earlier? The new wave music.
Yeah.
Well, Dope started playing with Turkey Vulture Records. They weren't on the same level, but they started doing a lot of shows with Beyond Threshold, and so did Soil and Stain. So like I was going out to these shows, and I was the video recorder guy. So I would go and I'd take photographs of like with of our band as well as the band that they're headlining, and the headliner bands,
right?
Because our band was normally like the second headliner, Beyond Threshold.
So like filming, and then taking photographs same time, switching off.
Yeah, and I'm doing it with bands. For bands that, or with bands that I grew up when I was a teenager looking at, like, these guys are cool. Like Dope was.
Yeah, I remember them.
Yeah, like their first album, before they did that remake, If You Spin Me, and they put that on there. Fuck that, but that first album before they sold out with that remake, fucking was the shit, dude.
Right.
Fucking, so I'm actually getting to, like, work with people that I used to idolize when I was a kid, It was like fucking awesome. But my ex-wife, she would show up and start troubles. Like, she would show up at the record studio and start yelling at me. And you really can't do that when bands are being recorded, can you? No, you can't have somebody just yelling at you. for being at work. You can't. For being at work. You can't have anyone yell at you for being at work.
So you're getting paid to do something you love, and your wife's mad at you because you're not spending enough time with her.
Oh yeah, totally. And it wasn't just that. It was she didn't want. It was because of the kid. She spent too much time with the kid. She felt like it's because when I would get home, she would leave. She would go hang out with her friends, you know, and I'd be left with the kid. You know, like I would get beat for skateboarding and all that shit. But in any case, I ended up losing that, you know, as a result. You know, yeah. And shortly after that, we ended up splitting. I ended up going back to my trash punk days. You know, like I started hanging out this formerly nationally known punk rock house called Disaster House in Rockford. A lot of dirty kids know about it. A lot of trained kids know about it. A lot of punk rock kids across the nation.
Let me show you something real quick, though. So how many Turkey Vulture videos you think are out there we can find that you edited or directed, or you're credited
out there that I can find? That
like bands or music video, promotional, whatever.
Like 3, maybe 5, somewhere in that range, maybe 7.
What's some of the bands? Anything specific or?
Oh well, there's only 2 bands that I actually finished putting out most of them for. One was Mobile Death Camp. The other one was Beyond Threshold. The other bands that I was working on.
Was this like 2012?
2011, 2012.
Okay, right. I can't remember.
So the other bands that I was working on, you know, when I left, I just didn't finish the projects.
Right. That sucks. It's a shame, man.
And it's not like I didn't have the footage, because I still had the footage myself on the hard drives, and I was making a point. You know, I told myself I was going to finish this work, but right after that, my ex-wife left me and the kid. And when you're in an abusive relationship, you know, you don't know how to. When you're told that you got to give up on who you are, and the only thing that matters is the family, and then when your abuser leaves you, you wonder who the fuck you are.
Right.
And so you know, let's just trying to sum that up real quickly. But in any case, I went back. I instead of moving forward with who I thought I was going back to figuring out who I was before I met her, so I could move forward.
Right.
And so I started. I did the trash punk thing for a little bit again, you know. But at D House, like I got back with me. Like I became a shell of a man. Like she stopped me from skateboarding. She wouldn't let me partake in bands. I would get in trouble for doing film and audio production. I would get in trouble for taking photographs. You know, like when you're getting in trouble for doing the shit that you love, you know, can you even do it anymore? When you literally beat for that.
Right.
It was really hard. Like, and at D House,
you'd get the love for it again, rediscover.
And punk rock at Disaster House helped me do that. There's a lot of photographs you could find online that I posted of my time at Disaster House. It got so bad, actually, that they had a meeting where they felt uncomfortable because I was taking too much photographs. I thought I was a cop, and they asked me to stop unless it was only for shows. Because I was just recording.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Because, you know, I was recording the punk rock. I was recording the life that also happened there, too, you know? Like, what happens in a punk rock house when there's no shows, you know? Well, chaos still happens.
So what?
Like, you have house fires, like...
Yeah. No, that's cool, man. That's legendary place.
But in any case...
What's some of the last projects you've done?
Well, let me get to beyond that. Okay, let me get into this punk thing. Okay, back to D House, and I'm bringing it full circle for you. Okay.
Oh yeah.
So I'm sitting there one day at Disaster House trying to help these traveling people fix their fucking bus, and it's fucking January, and it's like -10 out. My hands were fucking cold, and I'm like, fuck this. So I go to Jeremy's house, who had moved next door to Disaster House, and his band was practicing. And I wanted to return the tools that I borrowed. And I was so frustrated with life and not being able to fix that fucking bus that I just sat down. I just started fucking, like, they didn't have a singer because their singer named John, he went missing. Like, he literally vanished. And so they're still jamming though. And, I'm just sitting there just venting off like all my frustrations, just freestyling it to this like punk rock. It's not rock. It's not punk. It's just nasty, and it's good though.
Nice.
So the guitar player, Jance, rest in peace, my bro. He walks up to me and he's like, "Take the fucking mic." So I take the mic, dude, and I'm just freestyling to everything, man. And and they didn't say shit to me. They just left me alone, and they just kept playing. After a song would end, they would start playing another song, and they've been practicing together. They knew what song they were playing, and I would just start fucking spitting to that shit. And afterwards, they were just like, "Come back next time. When's practice?" They were like, "Thursday. You better be here." I'm like, "All right, okay." So I did that shit for a couple months. My first show happened the day of my divorce. It was awesome. The show sucked. The first fucking song was lit. The first song was awesome. But Jance, in the 15 minutes it took us to set up, Jance managed to vanish and down 7 beers. Because we had to keep an eye on Jance because we couldn't let him get drunk before a show, because if he gets drunk, he's gonna fuck it up.
Right.
Well, in that 15 minutes, Jack's an alcoholic. He downed 7 fucking beers.
Right.
So first song was great, but 5 minutes later, when those beers started hitting his ass because he's moving, because it's fucking punk rock and all the alcohol starting to flow through his ass. By the middle of the second song, he had no idea what he was doing anymore. And
what instrument did he play?
The guitar player. He was lead guitar. He was lead guitar, and like he was lead guitar to the point that where like sometimes the drummer would have to follow him because the drummer would get lost.
Yeah. No, you need that. Yeah, you need that.
So when your lead guitar player gets too drunk to fucking play,
what's his band called?
Sushi Fetus.
Sushi Fetus. I love it.
Yeah. So the second show went much better. Instead of getting drunk, I gave Jan some mushrooms. So about 3 hours before the show started. So by the time the show started, he was just coming down from the mud, no intention to drink because he was still tripping. So that second show, we fucking rocked.
Oh yeah. Okay, so you got back into the punk rocking.
Yeah, I started getting back into film. In fact, you helped a lot with that because she beat me for doing film, and I'm going through this divorce, and I didn't even know if I could do film. You actually reached out to me, and you were all like, "Hey, man, like, I need you to edit this music video."
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay. And yeah, and I did. I edited it. I edited a couple different versions of it, one with words, one without words. Then I didn't really do anything after that until one day I was watching Across the Universe. It was 2016. And the intro to it, how they had the waves coming in and they showed like the chaos of the 60s through the waves.
Yeah.
Well, I got this idea, because 2016 had this really strong political thing going on. There was all the riots happening. There was the Bernie Sanders campaign. The Trump. There was real strong politicalness at that time. Civil unrest. I got this idea to try to do that same thing, but apply it to endorsing Bernie Sanders. The only problem is I couldn't find good enough waves to be able to do that backdrop too. So I ended up creating like these 2 videos for support of Bernie Sanders. That really got me back into it.
And you got those are
film
both online,
production.
right?
Yes.
YouTube or
Those
Facebook?
are under the name John. I'll send you those links. Um, what else went down?
And then that same year we did
So
the
I get
Goodbye
back.
to the Bop. That was
We
2016.
yes.
Later in the year, I believe.
Yeah. It was actually. It was quite odd. To the run up to that, I had done these two videos. Within like 2 weeks, I finished the second video with like a week, 2 weeks before. You were like, "Hey, let's do this goodbye video," and
You're like, shit, I just got back into it.
yeah, yeah.
And it's like the Bop, like it was our old like stomping grounds, and you did the Pretty Baby video there, and you already had a connection to it. You know, I think that video turned out really good.
Yeah, it did quite well. The teacher for that in that video, the teacher turned to everyone and it was like, "That's how you make a music video." That one.
Oh
right
yeah,
there.
the Pretty, yeah, that I mean, but and the saying goodbye to the Bop, I like that how that turned out too.
Yeah, well, I mean, you help with a lot of that too. You know, you have a lot of in our work. You know, you may say that I'm the director, but there's you set the idea of of kind of the tone of what you want, and I just kind of try to give you that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, well, and that's even I've just had you just come and film live performances, and you just kind of know like good angles and how to really make it more of a, I don't know, like a motion film in a sense of a.
Well, that's only because of my starting with you.
Yeah,
because
well, yeah, man. I'm glad you took it to another level, and I mean that was it sucks it didn't work out with that label, but at least you had that experience, and I guess that was kind of a peak in a sense. You were getting paid to do what you love, and it was bands you used to love, and you still want to do it, obviously. But would you say that's one of your biggest highlights, or do you have any videos that are your favorite?
Well, I mean, there is that Rosecrans one.
Yeah, that's classic. Oh, and then there's the infamous Pretty Baby's one of your favorites. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. That solo scene, Dave's solo scene, that is one of my proudest moments of editing and camera work, I have to say.
I don't really like my scenes as much, but I think it's more my other lead as opposed to Nash and Shauna. Like they had a lot more, or Shauna was just like way more into it, and they just had more chemistry or something. But that's the only thing. But that's just me. You know, of course I don't like my part or whatever. But overall, it's a great video, and you made it seem like the Bop was like a bigger or crazier place or something. It's a good illusion in a good way.
Yeah. Well, just working with what you got.
And Scott made his appearance.
I made an appearance too in the mosh pit.
So yeah, what do you think? Is that one of your highlights?
I would have to say some of my more political stuff lately. Because that's one of the reasons that I got into the film and audio production, other than to make that film initially for myself. It was to kind of be like a social conscious, social justice, social awareness. Because remember, when your first album really is, 60s psychedelic rock that's totally focused on social movement, that kind of gets ingrained into you.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, and then you start to have your own experiences that you can relate to those songs.
Yeah, and then you see that this is something that hasn't changed in years.
Or maybe you never did, or maybe it was has always been.
And it just it fills your fire more.
Right.
So I went back actually to school after the divorce to study public health.
Yeah.
And one of the great things about public health is that communication, it really helps establish yourself. If you have a strong communication background in the public health field, you are very valuable. And I have the ability to create information in a format that people are more able to be receptible to through film and audio than through pamphlets and reading. And in a sense, that roundabout way has really helped create for me a niche market for myself, so that I can put food on the table.
Self-producing,
I
self-creating those things, which
yes,
other people
and
might have to seek out someone
yeah,
and just have the vision. You know what
and
I mean?
and like here, a lot of companies they can hire me because I have a master's degree, and instead of going to somebody who's outside to produce these videos, they have
Right. Yeah.
somebody
You're
who is
already in
working
it.
on them. Yeah, who has that ability to do it. And um, so, like, there's this one company called the State Line Literary Council. I did some work with them for a little while, bringing brand awareness out there. So they help individuals, mainly at this moment in time, immigrants, read, become English competent. They help them prepare for their citizenship test. They become U.S. citizens. They also help prepare them for GED test as well, so they can get an American GED. Because even if
Awesome.
you got a master's degree from another country,
Yeah, it
that
doesn't
doesn't mean shit.
equate. Yeah, exactly. Doesn't transfer
Like
over.
I met and read many case files of individuals from other countries such as Russia, Venezuela, El Salvador, and Brazil who had law degrees and master's degrees, who were janitors in America, working at Old Navy folding clothes.
Yeah,
Because
right.
yeah,
So they could get.
you know,
Sucks.
yeah, yeah,
That's really cool though.
and
That you're part of a program like that that helps them, and that's another part of communication in its own sense,
yeah,
with communication through barriers of language. That's why we're on the universal language right now, buddy. Podcast. Well, this is another way of communicating better. So I hate communicating through commenting and posting and texting, and this feels like we're almost hanging out in the same room. It's still like technology, but we can hear each other's tones and see the body
yeah.
language, and I can know when you're farting and all that stuff. So what do you think's your overall goal now with what you're doing in the medical and combining the film? You have a vision, or something you
Well,
personally?
there's just something I've been doing my entire life. I want to be a congressman. This sounds fucked up, because congressmen are leeches.
Right.
But
Well,
I mean, I've had that strong social justice thing inbred into me. Freedom.
so you want to
Psychedelic rock.
represent the people of the
Uh,
struggle in a
yeah,
righteous way.
because I've been of the struggle.
Right.
I mean, I've been homeless.
You
I've
lived
had the
and
drug
breathed it.
addiction. Yo, I've been there. I've done it. And I've went to the school to get the education to prove that I also know how to study it and know how to fix it,
Right.
And, the film and audio production is just one aspect to help me do that. But, because I can promote myself. But if that doesn't fucking work out, man, there are a number of companies who hire individuals to do film and audio production for them. So, like, let's say Oxfam, they're international public health organization. Doctors Without Borders, international public health organization.
Yeah.
My master's degree, one gives in public health gives me a foot in the door with those companies.
Mm-hmm.
But my certificate in film and audio production and those videos, they'll set me apart from the other candidates. So I could eventually go to a lot of their other locations, and I could do promo videos, So
Yeah.
if something's good,
That's
so
awesome, man.
remember the tsunami incident that happened, or like the earthquake that hit the Dominican Republic and stuff
Right.
like that. I could get paid to go there to make videos about these relief efforts.
Right. And
And then on top,
be employed by, well, the same people paying they might even get a better deal through you.
yes,
Paying
yes,
one person to do two things.
pretty much. And on top of that, I could also use that to take on my own my own topics again, because public health, we've had to do a couple videos, and because I have that background in public health, I mean that film and audio production, my videos have always stood out. Like most people, they'll go to like one of those web free websites that does the editing for you, and
Yeah, yeah.
or they won't even
Collage it
edit at
or
all.
yeah,
They
exactly.
won't even.
They make
They'll
like
just do like
what do you call it?
some,
What's the thing? The picture wheel or the I can't think of what it's called right now. The roll
yeah,
picture.
but yeah, and they won't actually use like any video footage. It'll be like, just basically words that they type up, like
Right.
here's the importance of washing your hands, and the company will produce that. And so there's no video footage, and if it is video footage, it's normally like just 2 minutes unedited of just one person discussing something, like almost like a mini presentation.
Yeah,
Man.
and easily could be. You like immediately see how it could be edited. You're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Zoom
Yeah,
in on the
no.
hands. Cut out this shit. Different angle here. Just one cam. It's just someone with a fucking phone camera, and they just push record and then push stop.
That's exactly what we're
It
talking about.
like starts with them and their fingers here, like no
That's
editing
exactly
at all.
That's exactly
And
what
you're just
we're
like,
talking about.
ah! It's horrifying to a film buff or whatever. That's
Yes,
cool, man.
that's-
I hope you fucking get an awesome job, and that's
yeah,
really cool.
yeah.
You got both those backgrounds, and
yeah. So like that's going to help create more of those social justice films. Would I like to do more bands? Yeah. I through working with Turkey Vulture Records and my time at D House, I came in contact with a lot of other local bands
right,
who really liked my photography and video work, and who would ask me to do work for them.
right.
It was though a lot of the times it was like, hey, come to our show, we'll let you in for free,
If you film or take
but you're not getting
pictures,
paid.
yeah, I get
Yeah,
what
you're not getting paid, but you could drink on our tab, but film, take pictures, you could get in for free, but
Well-
but a lot of that time, I was going through divorce and a single father, and I would work really late. I'd work till like 9, 10 o'clock at night,
right.
and I
Struggles.
I just wanted to be with my kid, and so I put off being a part of promoting the scene, and lately I've been kind of kicking myself for that.
Yeah, but you did what you had to do, and
Yeah,
maybe
I did
now
what I
you'll
had to
come
do.
back stronger, and maybe you should just
That's
take a
actually-
little time off and be a freelancer, man. I'd love to work with
That's
you
actually
again.
where I'm coming up to right now. Actually, is I actually want to get back into the scene again. But the problem is my work schedule is still very hectic because I am still in school as a student, so I work when I can work.
Right.
But I have this feeling that within the next couple months to the next year, within the next year, most definitely, we'll see what the summertime brings, that I will be injecting myself back into the local scene because they really don't have a photographer. They really don't have a videographer. And
Right.
if any scene really does make it, that's something that you need, man.
And that's how you can make it, exposing it, giving it better representation of all those
Yeah,
things.
like you do it yourself. You're a self-promoter,
Right.
You're multi-talented, all-around individual. You're going to go. You're going to.
It's an obsession. That's the main force. It's an obsession.
Yes, a lot of other people, they don't have that, so they need somebody else. Like
Right.
um,
Well, I always
and
feel
so-
like I always like collaborating or having other people do like official music videos, because I feel like even if it's my idea, you can usually just have a better eye. And I do enough of my own videos myself where the music videos are kind of like a step up, higher quality, so to speak.
They are.
You know what I mean? And I like
Yeah.
that, just to give it a little something extra. And then you kind of have my own homemade versions of everything else, just like this podcast. It's pretty simple in a lot of ways.
Very much so.
But yeah, man, I kind of got to wrap it up.
Yeah, I got you too, man.
I want to say we can't forget about your most popular video, how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
That is.
It's just literally JJ making three different kinds, and people love it. It's just like he's going through the steps of making PB&J, and it's crazy views. Well, let's cut to that now.
I only posted that because this one kid in class was like, that is the best video I've ever seen. You are so stoned in it, but it's awesome. If you post that, I would show that every time I get the chance.
And he probably did, because it's getting up there. It's almost gone viral or something. But
I actually got that video actually helped me get my girlfriend too, because she moved to California. We weren't dating yet, and this girl really liked me, and I didn't want to date her, but because I was going through some shit, man. I wanted to get myself situated. But she said she would watch that video like 2 or 3 times a night just so she could hear my voice. And that's like one of the things that made her decide to come back, because she wanted to like be close to me.
And then she's like, I also have an addiction to peanut butter and jelly.
Actually, no, she doesn't.
I know.
She barely ever eats it. I wish she did.
Oh, shit. Right? You're like, I'm obsessed with it. God damn it.
We actually talked about redoing another peanut butter and jelly sandwich video. But
you got to make a sequel. Yeah, make different variety.
But she was like, no, you got to go. She was like, don't go back to the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Mature beyond it. Do something else. Make a cake or something.
I think you should revisit it and try to like wear the exact same clothes and everything. Like, dude, make it look like exactly. Who cares? Like 10 years later.
That was what I wanted to do, because I look pretty much the same still. My hair is pretty much the same.
It's think of like Kevin Smith. He does that with Jay and Silent Bob, and you're like revisiting this thing that's already in the ether, the universe. All right, what do you want to conclude, man? Say some words of wisdom.
Well, I imagine
thanks for sharing your story, bro.
I imagine most of your fans are older, so most of my words of wisdom, they've already heard or experienced themselves. But
I don't think that's necessarily true anymore. But
good point. As much as it sounds like a cliche, seriously, don't let the world keep you down, man. Like, you get knocked the fuck down, you get back up, and you come back swinging.
Come back stronger.
You don't. If you have an idea of who you are, don't let anyone tell you you're not who you are.
I like it, man. Words of wisdom. Pass it to the masses. And puff tough. And
and if you don't know who you are, don't let anyone define you, man. Be yourself.
Hell yeah.
Most of my issues in life were because people were trying to tell me to be who I wasn't, instead of allowing me to be who I was.
They're making you feel insecure of who you actually were, which makes you uncomfortable. Yeah. And you're like, fuck you, man. But really, that's a defense mechanism of them, because they're insecure.
Yeah, because they were actually jealous of me. That just makes me realize that at 6 years old, my dad was jealous of me, that he felt he had to tear me down. At 10 years old, my dad was jealous of me, that he had to tear me down.
Yeah, I don't know about your dad, man. Sounds like kind of a weak-minded person.
You got to know his family.
Whole another thing. Yeah.
But I also know that my classmates were jealous of me, too.
Right. Whoa, bro. We got to wrap this up, bro.
Overall, we're cool. Yo, we're cool. Any case.
Thanks for being on the show, man.
Let's end it. Let's end it with that.
All right, brother. It's good seeing you. Thanks for being on the show. This is JJ John Sly. This is the 14th episode. Holy shit. Of the podcast. Thanks for being on, brother. It's good seeing you.
Likewise.
Love you, man. Tell Wes I miss him like crazy, all right?
Take care, bro.
Peace, brother.
Love you. Bye.